So who would make it into England's 23-man squad ahead of the World Cup if Gareth Southgate could only pick from Championship players? Let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Now, as we're in the middle of an international break at the moment, I thought that this one would be quite topical, and shout out to Adam who suggested this idea on yesterday's video. So I've gone away and done some thinking. I've scoured through all the Championship teams for their English talent, and I've gone ahead and picked out what would be my personal 23-man squad if I was only picking from English Championship players. Loan players are included in this, but without any further ado, let's jump into this one. So we'll start out with the goalkeepers. First of all, I'm going to go for Sam Johnston. I mean, he is a fully fledged England international with the main team, so you kind of have to throw him into this one, really. Sam Johnston himself has had a little bit of an up and down season, to be honest, for West Brom, because despite keeping 14 clean sheets so far this season, which does rank him as, you know, one of the best in the Championship, a save percentage of 65% isn't the greatest. It seems like throughout the season he certainly had his ups and downs. I think there was a bit of an issue with him and Ishmael at one point of the season as well, and there have been a few mistakes which have crept into his game, but overall tournament experience and stuff like that, I'm going to take Sam Johnston in my squad. I'm also going to take Huddersfield's Lee Nichols. He's been absolutely fantastic for them this season, transformed their defence, which was absolutely all over the place last season, but his save percentage of 78.2% ranks him as one of the best goalkeepers in the league this season, if not the best. Then for my third goalkeeper spot, I'm going to go for Sheffield United's Wes Foderingham, although there were quite a few sort of honourable mentions. Like, there are some big names that have missed out on today's list, the likes of Daniel Grimshaw, who I think has been really good for Blackpool. Daniel Bentley certainly has his moments for Bristol City. But I think Wes Foderingham, for what he's done for that Sheffield United side this season, how he's come into that partway through the season and completely changed around their back line, the confidence that they now play with because of Foderingham is absolutely massive. So for me personally, those are my three English Championship goalkeepers that I'm taking in my 23-man squad. Next up, let's hop into the defence. Now, I'm thinking it'll probably be a back three, as that's how most teams tend to play these days. You know, England, ourselves, do like to play with a back three. So, as those right-sided defenders, people who can play as the wing-backs, on the right-hand side, I'm going to go for the Middlesbrough double. I'm going to go for Jed Spence and Isaiah Jones. There's been quite the debate this season in terms of who's actually been better, and they've both got their strengths and weaknesses in differing parts of the game. But luckily, for the sake of this video, I don't need to choose between them. Both Jed Spence and Isaiah Jones have absolutely flourished in these roles so far this season. Jed Spence at Forest and Isaiah Jones at Middlesbrough. If needed as well, you can also chuck Isaiah Jones out on the left-hand side, so he has that little bit of versatility about him, which I like. And then as my left-sided defender, I'm only going to go for one. I'm only going to go with Ryan Giles, and there is method to my madness here, because one of the wingers that I'm taking can also fill in as a left wing back as well. But Ryan Giles, for me, while he hasn't set the world alight for Blackburn in the second half of the season, I think he's arguably one of, if not the best crossers of the ball in the Championship, particularly from that left-hand side. Giles also offers versatility. He can play off the front in midfield or on the left-hand side of a defence. He's rapid as well. I think he suits tournament football, and for me, there weren't all too many obvious standouts for that left-sided role, so for me, I'm going to go for Giles. For my central defenders, I've gone for four within my squad. The first defender coming into my team is going to be Nottingham Forest's Joe Worrall. I think in terms of leadership, probably being one of the best defenders in the Championship now, Joe Worrall is certainly up there for me. I think you get quite a lot out of him. Used to playing in a Steve Cooper system as well. He's quite comfortable in playing in either a back three or a back four. And yeah, over the last few years has certainly matured into a top player at Nottingham Forest. Next to him, I'm going to go for Lloyd Kelly of Bournemouth. I also like the versatility that you get with someone like Lloyd Kelly as well. Can play in the back three, a back four, or even as a left back if you are going for a back four as well. Left side defender, absolutely essential to the system that we're going to be playing as well. And Bournemouth have just been very good at the back so far this season, so I think you need to chuck at least one Bournemouth defender in there. Another left-sided defender who I am taking though is Huddersfield's Levi Colwill, who's on loan from Chelsea at the moment, a player who is playing with maturity beyond his years. Huddersfield have really transformed their backline so far this season. Levi Colwill has played an absolutely massive role in that. Out of everyone that we'll talk about on today's video, he has probably one of the higher chances of actually going on and playing for England in the future. He's brilliant. And then as my last centre-half, I was between quite a few, but I'm going to go for Millwall's Jake Cooper. I think you get quite a bit out of someone like Jake Cooper in terms of having that physicality about him. You know, while Colwell and Kelly can be a little bit more technical and stuff like that, you need a bit of a destroyer in that back line, and Jake Cooper is exactly that. Standing at like 6'6", a nuisance in both boxes, can get you a goal as well. Yeah, Jake Cooper goes for me. Now into the middle, this was probably where I had the most sort of problems with picking players really, because there's so many talented English central midfielders in the Championship. In the end, I've gone for 6 sort of players who you'd expect to play in the middle if we're going for a sort of a 4-3-3 or something like that. In terms of the most obvious pick, of course, John Swift makes it into this list right here. He is the X factor from midfield when it comes to set-piece deliveries, goals from open play, inside, outside the box, having that vision about him, and is someone who is able to break the lines moving forward. No questions, John Swift gets into everyone's team, I'm sure. As another attacking outlet that I think gets into most teams as well, I'm going to go for Morgan Gibbs-White, who just absolutely seems to smash it at this level. And for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to have clicked for him for Wolves so far. But I am very interested to see what actually happens with Morgan Gibbs-White at the end of the season. I think he's the difference for Sheffield United in the final third. I think they're a significantly weaker team without him in there. But yeah, as of yet, it's not quite clicked for him in the Premier League. But in terms of a 23-man squad, undoubtedly he gets in for me. Another player who carries the ball really well and makes it into my team is going to be Blackburn's Joe Rothwell, in terms of wriggling out of those tight situations, offering something a little bit different to all the other midfielders that I'm going to be picking as well. Joe Rothwell, I think, makes it into this team. Now, I was sort of on a 50-50 here because someone else who didn't quite make it into my team offers a similar sort of skill set to Rothwell, and that's Callum O'Hare at Coventry, who's also absolutely brilliant. But overall, based on this season, I'm giving Joe Rothwell the nod over Callum O'Hare, although I do like O'Hare quite a bit. Now, all the midfielders that I've named so far have been quite technical, so we need a bit of a physical presence in that midfield as well, and that comes with Matt Crooks for me, who makes it into my team. He's been brilliant in terms of delivering the goals for Middlesbrough so far this season from that midfield role. Quite versatile in the positions that he can play as well. If you need a goal late on, chuck him up front and lob some balls into the box. We also need some people who will be able to sort of control the tempo of a match as well and sit a little bit deeper. Lewis O'Brien for me makes it in as another Huddersfield player onto today's video. If you've been watching the channel for the last few seasons now, you'll know how highly I have rated him throughout the last few seasons. This year's been no different. And then as my last pick, I was between quite a few midfielders for this one really. You've got the likes of, because I needed someone to be that proper sort of holding midfielder who's able to spray the ball about and stuff like that. We've got the likes of Matt Grimes, who's really good at doing that. Ben Whiteman at Preston, I think, does a good role in that. In years gone by, I would have gone for Ben Pearson, but he's not really played that much for Bournemouth this season. So instead, I've gone for James Garner of Nottingham Forest. Very interested to see what the long-term plan with James Garner is from a Manchester United perspective, but I quite like him, someone who's able to sort of pop off those passes, knows when to switch up the play and things like that, and has an eye for a through ball as well. Before we get into the out-and-out forwards, I've also gone for 4 players who can occupy the wide positions in my team. So 2 off the left, 2 off the right. Coming in as my first option, I've gone for Millwall's Jed Wallace. We spoke about Millwall while they were without Wallace earlier on for a portion in the season, and the impact that he had coming back into that side. You know, they suddenly look like playoff contenders once again, but consistently for the past 3 or so seasons now, he's been one of the best wingers in the Championship in terms of overall performance and the numbers he puts up, set pieces, open play. Jed Wallace is making it into this team, no doubt. Next to him is another winger. I'm going to go for Chris Willock of QPR. Now, he is actually injured for the rest of the season, which is a real blow for QPR at this point in time. But in this fictional fantasy of me picking a team, we're not going to take that into consideration. And Chris Willock is someone who gives you that X factor, really. Give him the ball with a player or two to beat, and he'll create something from that. And I feel like in tournament football especially, you need someone like a Chris Willock, don't you? He's been probably QPR's best player this season. And without him now, I think they'll feel his loss. Another player who gives you that X factor as well, I'm going to have to put in Blackpool's Josh Bowler. I think in the second half of the season he's added end product to his game, which was maybe slightly lacking at the start of the season, but what was always present with Josh Bowler was his ability to just float through people. In terms of the dribbling statistics, he's consistently been at the #1 spot throughout the season. Now that he's added goals and assists into his game as well with this recent run of form, I don't think you can afford not to take someone like a Josh Bowler. And as my last pick, as my wide option, I was between quite a few for this one, but I have gone for Hull City's Keane Lewis-Potter for a number of reasons, really. Obviously, we're only taking Ryan Giles as that left-sided defender who can play as a wing-back, but Keane Lewis-Potter also very comfortable in slotting into that position, can also play as a number 9 as well. But I watched Hull come to Deepdale on the first game of the season, and they absolutely tore us to shreds, and it was really thanks to Keane Lewis-Potter, who's just so deadly operating from that left-hand side. He's had a handful of brilliant performances throughout this season. I think next season he's only going to go on and get better. So those right there are the 4 wingers that I've selected to come into this team, and I think this one is shaping up fairly nicely, and I've left myself with 3 slots for my striker role. So coming in as my first striker, obviously so, we're going to go for Dom Solanke. 23 goals this season, 6 assists as well. No doubt in my mind that Dom Solanke is making it into this team. In terms of movement, consistently scoring goals has the link-up play as well. Solanke, yeah, no doubt in my mind. Another option I want in there is Elijah Adebayo of Luton Town. Offers something a little bit different to Solanke, more of an aerial presence, 4.1 aerial duels, 1 per 90. But this season, been absolutely fantastic for Luton. 14 goals, 4 assists for them in a slightly different system to how Solanke plays. Good hold-up player, and I think you're spreading yourself by bringing a sort of variety of different strikers. And that's why for my third striker spot, I'm going to go for Preston North End's Cameron Archer, on loan from Aston Villa in the second half of the season, and he's been absolutely excellent for us. I think that in terms of close control, dribbling, moving past people, Archer I think is a really unique talent. In 10 starts for us, he scored 5 goals. I think over the entire season in the Championship, he honestly hits 20, he's that good. But as we can see on screen there, that is my personal 23-man English squad made up of entirely Championship players. Now, I had to leave some massive players off on today's list, you know, the likes of Callum O'Hare, Nick Powell, Tosin Adarabioyo, Matt Grimes, Jaden Anthony, Billy Sharp. The list is absolutely endless, but in the end those were the names that I settled on. But I want to get your guys' 23-man squads and starting 11s in the comments down below. As always though, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Apart from that though guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.